Hello, welcome back to Wednesday Night Drawing Live. Well, until we're live. Uh, we need 43 more subscribers until we can be live uh, to live stream. But we'll be drawing by hand, and we're working on a few perspectives of seeing ourselves on the globe. And we have different weeks worth of work, and tonight we'll be tying some together. So get your supplies, your 4 colors, unless you have just one, that's fine too, a pen, a pencil, and an eraser is good, and a sharpener if you need. But what we began last week, titling the page of something that we want to see come to fruition. And we'll get started. While you grab those supplies, I'll give you a second. Oh, and also be sure to have handy a clear clipboard, a translucent clear clipboard if you have one, so that you can hold it up to the light and trace a previous week's work. Okay, so I'm going to put aside my title on my page, and I'm going to have my clipboard. Okay, so if you go through your previous week's drawings and get the one of yourself on the globe, or the one that we did the colors of yourself on the globe as well, it doesn't matter which one. And a plain piece of paper. Okay. Okay, so you can line it up with the earth a little bit in the center of the new page. It's hard for my clipboard to clip that because there's a lot of excess at the top, so I'm just going to hold it on there. And with my pencil that's a little bit dark, I'm going to trace over the shape of the earth. It's just much easier than sketching it out all over again. And then my sort of continent. Okay, I did a little too much sketching activity, so a little too much back and forth of the pencil to be able to see myself on this corner of the continent. Manhattan is actually a little bit off of the continent. It's weird to think of it that way. but it is, I drew it a little bit too high. That's almost New England. And I want to be able to see myself. Okay. Okay, so you can do a stick figure drawing of yourself or however you want to do it. And then I can take this and take it and put it back. And now I have the earth, and I can do another sun. And that's that. Okay, so what we're going to do is imagine the longitude and latitude. So the concept of longitude was first developed by ancient Greek astronomers. Hipparchus, 2nd century BC, used a coordinate system that assumed a spherical Earth and divided it into 360 degrees, as is still done today. Latitude and longitude finder. Latitude and longitude are the units that represent the coordinates at geographic coordinate system. To make a search, use the name of the place in your state. Okay, so this is at latlong.net. So I'm going to type the place name. Manhattan, New York City, or New York, U.S. Latitude, longitude. Okay, yeah, so it's pretty close to what I have here. Mine was correct. It wasn't quite New England, like it was pretty much on the right idea. So I'm gonna move that up a little bit. Okay. So it's not showing. The latitude is going from north to south, south to north. It's the distance from the prime meridian. And the longitude is going around. And it is the distance from the equator. Okay, so picturing with our 4 colors how we had north, south, east, west. Picturing the longitude first, which would be whatever color you had as foundational. I had pink, if you recall the previous weeks. I had pink as my foundation underneath me, and then yellow above. So for my longitude, I'm going to draw the longitude, the distance, so for under my feet, and then above my head, the yellow, and that determines how wide our square. For the latitude, I had green on the left when looking at the page and blue on the right. So I'm going to draw my latitude line. I'm going to imagine myself arm's length. And then with my green, and there you can see the square. So now we have a visual of our square, of the latitude and longitude lines intersecting around us. So in that square, we can draw all the colors. Color it green, color it blue, color it pink, color it yellow. The ink, the pencil made it just look dirty. Okay. But we can erase some of that. I can erase some of that. And it's somewhat of a nicer. Okay. So I'm going to take my pen and go over my figure so that my figure stands out. Okay. Now to remember that the square follows us wherever we go. There's always the intersection of latitude and longitude here on Earth. And if you believe that those equations are somehow energies, because they do contain physicality. There's geography there in the distance of one place to another on the globe, and there are all sorts of factors involved. So I believe there are energies there. And those energies do change, so the square will change. But let's remember some of the things that we learned about the symbolism of a square and write that on today's drawing. And let's look at the prior week's drawings of a square. So in math, the square is a result of multiplying a number by itself. So it becomes more important when thinking in terms of a square. A square of a number is that. Because in geometry, it shows in its importance of the definition of the area. So in both of those things, it's about what the thing is becoming more important. Function is what will happen when in the immediate, in the future, and for legacy's purpose of recording the past. In spirituality, the square is about stability, grounding, balance, and the material and spiritual foundation of life. I think if we can chart or jot those things down, and first understand how us being in the square makes the square, gives this square the importance of us being in the square. It gives the extra importance. So when we go to take up a space, we're not just an inanimate object taking up a space. The square just automatically makes us more important, even the inanimate object. But for us, we have all the dynamics involved of what kind of energy we have as people, etc. And we'll begin to look at that as time goes by. But for tonight, we're just going to put the relevance of some of those fundamentals of the square. Okay, so if we think of that which we are, the energy, if we just go with that to begin with, what energies we have, and if we think of them, some of our energy coming from outside of ourselves, coming from that which put us here on the globe, like our higher power, if you believe in God, or the energy of the stars, which we physically came from. We come from the stars. We come also then from the water here on Earth in evolution. And so if we think of those things as up here in our Earth star, the sun energy, those things of ourself that we highlighted last week. So it was, for me, I did a pyramid, well, not a pyramid, but a triangle, prism shape. And it was about see, be, manage, and deliver. And those were things that I felt that, so it says in this, may I feel I'm manager of that understanding and am above it. So I put those things, let me just find And for our self-portraits, although this is a poor self-portrait, it was a tracing over of our self-portrait. So we have to go and add shading and add the finishing details to the actual portrait. But I had on the bottom those key things that I believe are a part of me: seeing, being, managing, and delivering. So if we think of some of our energies coming from outside of ourselves, we can draw that in the sun system if we would like. So we'll think of this as a system up here of our energy being powered up. So in pink, I'm going to write manage. In actually, I did the wrong color. So being, I'm just going to copy it from the previous week. For my foundational principle of energy, I believe delivering, I'd like to ascribe a blue color to it. Delivering, managing in screen, being is pink, and seeing in yellow. Then for the symbolism of the square, with all four colors, I'm going to write very important, to show that it makes what is in the square very important. Very important. And now I'm going to write down those values of spiritual symbolism of a square. So we'll try to make it into 4. So stability, grounding, balance, and foundations. I meant to put foundation in pink. Foundation. And in pink instead write foundations. And why don't I take the colors here and go over where it says the parts of a square. So foundations, stability, I'm going to put on my right, grounding in green, and balance in yellow. We do need to balance that which is incoming. Be it energy from star, sun energy. Okay, so my colors have been attributed, and now I'm just going to write them on here. So I have foundation, balance in yellow, stability in blue, and grounding in green. Now we can take the previous week's square, place it under, and we can trace over that. Okay, and this can be our understanding of how we fill up the square of latitude, longitude that surrounds us. So if we think of the energy of our own, widening up the space around us and making that clear, and those lines above and below intersecting, causing the square, or instead a cube, we can fill the space with those colors that we've attributed to the lines. Or you can think of them as boundaries. So for foundations, I feel like my foundation of how I was raised, then the things that I did, horseback riding, etc. My foundations are very strong. So I'm going to put a little extra in my foundations. And I'm going to color it even darker. Stability, balance, and grounding. Balance is important to me, and I have very strong balance, so I'm going to put it down close to the foundation. But it takes up less space. I think it's less important to me than the others. Well, than foundations. And maybe the others, but what it is stronger. So I'm putting it right after foundations because it's also very strong. I feel very balanced, and I do things to maintain my balance. It's a part of vision strategy. And so stability, again, less important. So I'm going to put that at the top. And grounding, because stability is very important, and maybe that's the error of my ways, but I have to be flexible, I have to be agile and ready to adapt. So being stable is a little less important than those things, in my opinion, to myself. So grounding is important, and that I do grounds me even more. So it is important to me, and it's strong. So it's strong close to the foundation. So it's strength, but it's not all that much. And then stability in blue. So it's not, as I said, that important to me. But the symbolism of the square lends me stability. And so this is what this square, I believe, delivers me. And I like that there's clear, empty, open space in it. I'm going to use my pen to draw a mark. That square can be represented this way. And I'm going to use my pen to delineate the open space from that which is attributed. And that open space, I'm going to call a variable. It's just a variable. Depending on the consequence, the circumstances, depending on placement. So it's a variable. Okay. I want us to be able to draw in last week's titled page what we wanted to bring into our capacity to manage. So it's something that we perceived that we are managing that way. So if it's in our perception, that's a part of managing. And then we want to bring it to more of a pragmatic reality than a vision out there. So we haven't worked on forming the vision too much, but this is just a preliminary sketch. And when you sketch with a pen, it's almost more freeing because you're restricted by, you don't want to make a mistake because you know it can't be erased. But you also, that hands you, it goes right from the hand to the person. It hands you authorship. So you are putting it the way that you want it. So with pen to paper, do a rough draft sketch of that perception that you're beginning to manage. I can't remember if last week I said the perception should be something that you want to see into fruition or something that you need to manage that might be a challenge. But the perception that will be more fun for us to work on right now is something that you want to see into fruition. So I'm working on getting a retail space for my New York Gold Tours and Gold de la Locale, eventually for a new social media platform and marketplace. But I'm wanting to open a hybrid smart foods and retail enterprise to proceed smart things and smart stuff. So, which is the name of the social media platform. And so I'm going to draw I think a symbolism of that. It can be symbolic, it can be, I last week drew the pyramid, or I keep calling it a pyramid, it's a prism. You can draw whatever you like, but maybe just a rough draft sketch of what you perceive that you want to see into fruition. So if I deal with the fundamentals of that, if you make a mistake, you can draw the correct way and then just make that darker by going over that a few more times than you did with the mistake. And that is a way to do a sketch. And in that way, it can become more visible. The right lines, the correct way you want it. Well, I haven't worked out the name. the miracle church swing hands. But I think we'll wrap this up and go back to this another week. Okay, I just decided on a visual merchandising. Future for my windows. Okay. So this is my okay. So that's that. Time's up. And for the focus this week, we need to recognize our power and the power of the earth energy and the star energy coming and joining together in these, that we can connect to each other. So in the yellow here, in the longitude, latitude sort of cube, we can imagine that the yellow that comes to us, it's part of us from the sun, or from that which is without us, from the higher realm, from the outer limits, from however you want to see it, we can associate that with balance and our earth energy here. And so next week we'll bring those together more in some literal smart tools, exercises that will help us to use these facts or these understandings of facts, and help us to go forward in an even better way than we might already be. And this we will develop as time goes by, the perception that we are managing. So good luck. I hope you all have great weeks, and see you next time.